Hello, chess fans. I'm gonna show you this game that I played on the bird. I saw a couple of places where I went a little astray from the highest path, honestly, but throughout the most of the game, I feel like the opening did well and all the strategy involved. It's taking me a long time to develop. Pretty good, so show you that. Pretty nice wins. 5-minute blitz. Opponent wasn't too high rated on chess.com yet. Here we go. Um, you know, this is when really e5 is supported by d6 by their camp right here. Um, so, I'm not going to really give effort in trying to prevent it since that pawn's there. It's not worth it to do the stonewall structure. Stone walls with pawns like that, preventing e5, the e5 push right here. So since that pawn's there, I'm going to let him do it and kind of do the same thing as you'll see in the game. You got you got see me doing it right after him. So he's not going to outspace me, and I have always this pawn flanks the whole game. That's what it's called when two pawns are next to each other, like that on the rank. It's called a pawn phalanx. Old guys like Lasker, Emmanuel Lasker used to play this. Not really in this opening. I'm not really sure, but they used to use these phalanxes, and then they say, don't push either of the pawns until the time is right, and leave that tension because people don't know how to play around it, and just wait for them to mess up. But like if you hold this like towards the center like this, then you're pretty much golden. Bishop d7. I don't think that was the strongest move, but that's what this guy played. It's a sensible developing move if you don't know what's going on. G3, so supporting this pawn. If he ever trades here, then I'm able to come back here and then have the pawn phalanx at the same time after that trade. And I can fianchetto my bishop over the long diagonal. So he almost kind of identified with me, like copycatted the f5 move, which is fine because my center really supported those pawns. And then I fianchetto, he trades, I'm fine. Now this queen scope is way increased, really. And right now I'm happy with every move that I played so far. See, people usually do this in one move. And right after they do that, I'm always starting to play this move so that knight doesn't come in here and give me this awkward pressure on that square with the pin from the bishop over that diagonal. So c3, that square is covered, and that really is a nice defensive move and stops a lot of pieces from penetrating my position, especially this knight, and a lot of times this queen if this file gets opened. So there we go, and it opens up for some flexibility in my position, which I'll show you later. And he trades. I guess he didn't need to. If he didn't trade, I could have put my queen on c2 here and gotten out of the pressure if I needed to at the appropriate time. Developing, castling. See, I'm safe here, even though there's not a pawn right here. I'm safe. This phalanx right here is controlling all these squares, So that's really super cool. And then, put my knight here because the c4 square is good. Also, I could take this route. And once the knight gets to f5 here, supported by these pawns, it's a nuisance to like this bishop and the castled king over here, which he's about to do. Is that castles? And my time's running low, but I kind of know what to do. This is where I almost think I've made a mistake. Not yet. Right here, it's good. Since he put the pressure on the queen was here before, I slide it over. It's because the bishop's gone, I can celebrate this square. So that's one thing that personally I would like to remember. And it's really awesome in this opening and these types of positions when the bishop, their light square bishop's gone, it's off the board. I can celebrate that fact and take this square at my queen, and it's nice to put pressure on the castle king, and has like a good amount of scope in the position. So honestly, it's great to celebrate that bishop being gone and take that square for the queen. Bishop f6. I guess he's playing chess at this point. You know, it's Blitz. Who knows really what's going on from a technical standpoint, because it's Blitz. I continue rerouting the knight, so now I can even go here too, since he did this maneuver and put the bishop where the knight is. You know, I can go for this square too with my knight, and also this square. So it's pretty sweet. You know, attacking those, I really, really like it. I'm gonna kind of go through a couple moves quick. This is just standard stuff, you know. And then I decide to take this square for my knight. Queen c8. I'm gonna take the bishop now because I'm gonna have a full bishop pair, and it's a pretty open position, so that's an advantage. And trade queens. I know I have an endgame advantage here because of the bishop pair, and this pawn flanks is controlling some sweet squares, and it's really tricky to play against these two pawns right here, even when the queens are off. And especially the bishop pair, because you can open diagonals in really weird ways, honestly, with them. You know, it's strange to play against. And this is one of the openings when you can actually achieve that with some success. It's great. And black's position, you know, I'm threatening to double the pawns here. This is where I kind of had a choice. I'm not sure if this is one of like the weird things that I messed up, but this honestly would have been another candidate move in this position, because then you can leave this bishop where it is because it's pretty active, you know, supporting this, and then just bring the rook over here, and then, you know, you can double by bringing it here, you know, open up the rook and leave this bishop here because this bishop's already developed really where it is. And then if you push this, then you're blocking that knight square. So that's another candidate move here. I might have rather played that, because after my next move, which is bishop here, then this knight can come in here and be a nuisance to this bishop and this pawn. And I was just gonna get some active play with like this bishop here, and then you know, if he wins this pawn, then I can put my rook here and then threaten the knight, and when the knight moves, come down and take that pawn. But it would have been probably better to play this move here on move 20. And then rook comes, putting pressure on the flanks of the center, e-file or pawn. I don't trade the knight just yet, but then I trade it. So it's like I wait like, you know, a couple moves. I was like, oh, maybe b3 would have been good, so I played that anyway. And then still, you know, that double came just in time to protect the pawn. And then see, I was just taking up like these nice squares for the knight, and also like he's controlling these squares, which is so sweet. You know, this is really tricky to play against. Knight there, bishop here. I kind of faltered here, honestly. I like this bishop maneuver. There's nothing wrong with that. Something that I could have seen earlier, but I'll show you now. It's like when you decide to finally push this pawn, which is okay that it's on light squares, because, you know, I have such an advantage here with this pawn structure crippled, and the bishop has more scope, in my opinion. Once I push this pawn, like, I know that this bishop's going to be able to control all these squares. Once I weaken this square right here, then the bishop can control any knight's penetration into my camp, i.e. these squares right here. So that's super cool. And if the knight ever moves, then you know, there's a vulnerability here. So basically what I mean is, instead of this move before the knight comes in, maybe rook open file to this square, and then his knight comes here, and then my bishop can drop back to the move I played and still protect all the squares, and my rook's on the open file beating down on this d6 point. But it's Blitz, and I still have an advantage here anyways, so it's really all good. All good in the hood. I just dice him up, you know, eventually. He doesn't even see that that square is protected by the bishop, and he puts his knight down there. And then I trade, and then he really messes up here, and I'm up a rook now. So this pawn flex is tricky to play against, and he fell apart. Really interesting opening, and it's a strategic press really the whole time. Also, the trump cards of the bishops being celebrated, and play all the best moves, but most of them I did, especially in the opening because I know it so well. Well, there you go. Hope you enjoyed. My name is Joe Bennett. This is Bird Chess.